are living in very interesting times. Those of you who are my age will remember this period before the National Party regime collapsed, where you had fractions, you had divisions within the ruling party, which we see in the ANC, where on the eve of the Minister of Finance budget, this announcement that a well-known rogue, allegedly rogue, a public servant called Brian Molefe was about to be anointed into a position in Parliament and probably replace the minister on the eve of that budget. So this is a movement that is fractured, that is aware that the message of August the 3rd, when it lost control of key metros, that the electorate that's dependent on is wavering, that it could move and shift. The reality is that in 23 years of black rule, in areas where the ruling party was in a very strong position, unified, it has failed to make a lasting impression in restructuring the economy. It's been very weak, particularly in sending, in the last 8 years, a very strong message around policy certainty. I'm talking here about the mining sector. We all know in South Africa that at the height of the commodity cycle, we failed to exploit those opportunities. When Australia was ensuring that the infrastructure investment on the mining sector, I'm talking about rail, moving goods, giving it back to private hands, South Africa kept it in public hands. And our infrastructure couldn't move the goods to the port during that time. Today, we remain with uncertainty around ownership and title. I don't see any growth strategy within the ANC, nor within the budget. The global economy and the forces across the world are so anti-growth that we need leadership that will focus on growth, that will restructure this economy, ensure that we address labor rigidities, we invest on productivity, and we create a dynamic growing economy that will be inclusive of all.
We come from an 8-year worth of lackluster growth globally. SA has found itself in that construct in a very peculiar way. On the one hand, there's been a huge commitment to make sure that infrastructure spending is coming through. There has been wastage along the line. In other words, we've got high expenditure. It's about 8% growth rate that has been sustained like that year in, year out. And there was a need to make sure that revenue comes in. And that's why they were talking about a 28 billion rand eke out. It's an eke out from the economy. Recall at the World Economic Forum at the beginning of this year, top of mind was inequality is too high. The rich are getting richer, in part because of monetary policy in the last 8 years that boosted all risk assets. So it was understandable that the minister tilted his policy towards what has happened, which is the rich and the wealth-related taxes. There's a commitment. It's 8% growth rate in expenditure. It's not easy to stop expenditure on fiscal policy. It will halt the economic growth. As nascent or as shallow, as small as it is, it will thwart it. If you look in the SA context, in the last 5 quarters, there's been a deep recession of investment from the business sector. It makes more than 60% of capital formation in the country, and it contracted cumulatively over those 5 quarters near 20%. They left the whole economic growth thing subject to the markets. It's exogenous. So they did not come in to try to turn that around.
I think the big thing here is there is no talk of structural transformation. There's no talk of policies that boost economic growth. And I think this is where they might, take a bit of a hit in terms of rating agencies. I think the budget yesterday certainly bought the government a little bit of time in the sense that if we look at the fiscal matrices, fiscal consolidation is still very much on track. That sovereign ratings didn't move and they took NTPPS as being positive. They could perhaps take yesterday's budget in that light. But in October, they will look for more information around how do we plan to boost economic activity. In real terms, expenditure is still expected to grow at around 2% ahead of GDP growth. So that in itself, to a certain degree, does stimulate GDP.
What we've seen over the last few years where we've had the tax increases is a reasonable balance, if you like, between direct and indirect taxes. We've seen a shift this year. We've now seen the introduction of the new 45% tax bracket. Direct taxes is where the bulk of the tax increases came from, with a little bit picked up on the indirect taxes. So that, as a whole, is going to make the tax system even more progressive. The downside with all of this is all fair and well, you're extracting that 28 billion rand from the economy, but if you're taking it all out, the bulk of it out in the form of direct taxes, well, that might deal with the issue around equity and inequality and making the system more progressive, but it comes at the expense of efficiency, economic efficiency insofar as the tax system is concerned. So that is negative. Those tax increases are negative for savings, they're negative for investment, and ultimately they're negative for economic growth in the medium to long term. And bear in mind that we've got 15 billion rand penciled in for further tax increases next year. Where is that going to come from? And incidentally, it's been slipped into the budget. No mention was made of it, but it sits in the tables. There's another 16 billion rand of tax increase that's been penciled in for 2 years' time. So if we're looking at all of these tax increases coming through, we're looking at a situation where our tax burden, if you like, our tax to GDP ratio is already, and already last year, was at levels above where it was in 2008. It's a real concern about how much more milk can we extract from this cow. We don't have a revenue problem in this country. We have an expenditure problem. So since 2008, our expenditure has grown from around 27% of GDP to now 33% of GDP. The bulk of that coming through from the public sector wage bill. So if that had been all spent on fixed capital formation, we'd be saying great, and we'd be very well placed to grow the economy strongly now. But it's all been spent on consumption. Long term, we actually need investment to grow, and that's not what we see.
There is no doubt that South Africans have no confidence at all in government to date. President said very clearly that it's the ANC first, it's him and the ANC, and then nothing about the country at all. So we've got a faction that's got no interest at all. But what is very good at is to revoke the past and say, you know what, it's not us, it's the white monopoly capital, whatever that means. In a society where color, with people that got power, is being used to justify failure, or at least to hide failure in our case, that this can't go unaddressed. And I think come 2019, you're going to see tax growth, accountability are going to be on the table. And whatever party that can sell those to the electorate and convince that it's cleaner, because we know the current crop, it cannot reform itself, no matter what it says.
Even in the context of low growth, global low growth, South Africa is underperforming.
If we look at this pickup that we're talking about, which is still quite nascent in the global economy, that should also bode well for South African the demand for SA exports. So I think more effort could be put in the primary and the secondary sectors of the economy to boost economic growth and also to contribute to employment.
So a 1% increase in that VAT rate will bring in roughly 20 billion rand a year. Yes, you might have to spend some of that in appeasing the poor, if you like, and relieving the burden of that tax on them, which can be done through the social grant system, it can be done through the income tax system, and it can be done, not ideally, but it can also be done through expanding the basket of zero-rated goods.
The country has now birthed monopolies and oligopolies, which muscle out any other person who can arrive. And that's why competition policy has now become top of mind and a lot more important.
My question about the 45% tax bracket, how many of them work in the public sector? How many of them were in parliament yesterday? And should we be having so many public servants in the top tax bracket? And was this Pravin's answer to inflated public sector salaries?
The whole land reform debate is a very bad debate. Most of the land is owned by the chiefs. So the whole land tenure system smells. The ANC narrative is that the land is owned by whites, therefore whites are holding it against blacks. No, chiefs hold millions and millions of hectares, and they haven't done anything. So I'm just saying that, as black South Africans, particularly, we need to reflect around what the state is doing and how it's behaved over the 20 years been free. That I think black people, if they're skeptical like me, be thinking through about what's next. What can we do collectively to make sure that people aren't thinking about the state as a solution, but the state is a facilitator and everything depends on me.
The minister continues to state that, look, we need to inject capital into these SOEs. We still need to help them, and they're not self-sufficient as yet. A lot of them are still working on huge losses, and this has contributed quite significantly to contingent liabilities. And essentially what this does, it increases South Africa's debt profile and makes us, leaves us at risk for further sovereign downgrades.
Reliance on state, as a black person, I'd like to tell you it's very important. One, the ANC government speaks about radical economic transformation, and there's nothing radical that they've said. And they've done up to today at 9:20, they've done nothing.
What is the most important thing is the progression, the success of the country. And I believe once we have a shared interest, everyone in this room, only then will we be ready to acknowledge the real problems that exist in the country.
We are skating on thin ice. Remember, the Zuma crop wants to take control of the treasury. So the biggest risk I'm foreseeing is that should those people succeed in taking control of the treasury, they'll make ESCOM and other SOEs look like a children playtime game. These forces will reverse that consolidation. Ms. Nomvula Mokonyane puts it very well, quoted in Sunday Times about 2 weeks ago, that this treasury is a stumbling block. I want to get going. I want to spend. So this is thinking within the cabinet. So I remain very, very vigilant because I think we are in a difficult moment in our country where there is contestation within the ruling party and the evil within it is much more stronger than we think. I hope it doesn't win so that Kyle's belief that we are consolidating is real. But seeing what they're doing and what they're capable of, I think we may see a Venezuela coming very, very soon.
I'll ask this question. When government will stop stealing? Because everything is paid. But the thing is, when you've got corrupt people, you will never grow in any way in the world. So the question is, when do you stop stealing?